But welcome to our national webinar on 1% Nature by the 30 by 30 Alliance. So welcome, my name is Simon Copland. I'm the Executive Director at the Conservation Council ACT. And this is an alliance of groups from around the country who I'll introduce soon, and we'll talk about this campaign. So please, welcome to the webinar. Whoever's doing it, can I get the next slide, please? So first, I'd like to say I acknowledge the country that we are all meeting on today. I come to you from Ngunnawal country in our capital city here in Canberra and in the federal electorate of Canberra. I know many of you will be joining from different countries around today, from different country today. And maybe if you'd like, you can go into the chat of the Zoom link and tell us where you're coming from today. I extend respect to all First Nations people. Can I ask whoever maybe is making noise there, if you could just hop on to mute. I extend respect to all First Nations people with connection to the beautiful lands on which we meet. I pay respect to elders past and present, and acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded and that we benefit from stolen country. And we in the Alliance recognise the deep and continuing connection that First Nations people have with land, sea, culture and community, and acknowledge that we're striving to stand in allyship with First Nations communities for self-determination and environmental justice. Of course, we'd like to welcome all guests who have joined from around the country today, including special acknowledgement of any First Nations people who are here with us tonight. Next slide, please. So this campaign that we're introducing you to tonight is led by the 30 by 30 Alliance. 30 by 30 is a non-partisan, expert-based alliance working to ensure that Australia's special and unique wildlife is protected for future generations. We have a shared aim of ensuring that Australia fulfills its commitment to protecting at least 30% of land mass by the year 2030. And we're made up of several members who you can see on your screen there, including Conservation Council and other organisations. We'll be talking to you obviously more about the campaign tonight. And if we just go to the next slide, we can give you a bit of overview of what we're doing. So tonight, the webinar is for people who care about nature and are curious about doing something really powerful, meeting with your local federal MP to ask them to back increased funding for nature. And this is a recognition that if we're to meet our 30 by 30 commitments, we have to have significant increased funding for nature, because there's no point putting lines on a map to protect nature if we're not then looking after it. So in this webinar, what we're going to do is you'll help understand why we're asking what we're asking the federal government to do and why. You'll learn about what's involved in meeting with your local MPs. You'll hear personal stories and practical tips from volunteers already standing up for nature. And you'll connect with a growing national community of people taking action locally. So just to give an example here in the ACT, and why this campaign is important. In the ACT, we're campaigning to save a huge part of the territory called the Western Edge, which our government, the local government, is investigating for massive amounts of potential urban sprawl, which would be land clearing and destroying some really important ecologically sensitive communities. And one of the big issues here is money. The ACT government sees that they could make money off that land through land sales and things like that. At the same time, they have very little to no money to properly manage the biodiversity in this region, let alone other parts of the territory. And this is stories we hear all around Australia. Governments, local governments in particular, are often scrambling for funds to do the vital work to both protect nature and to restore nature. And that's why we're talking and turning to the federal government, who have the real ability to raise real funds and then to be able to distribute it to states and territories and to do their own investment. And so we've got a campaign here around federal MP engagement, which is really valuable. It's federal MPs who are both on the ground, know their local area and issues, but also have the ear of the federal government. So this campaign is about taking local issues like our Western Edge to Parliament House so that they can be properly heard and we can see a boost of nature funding across the country. Next slide, please. So just a couple of logistical things. Please put your questions in the chat and as we go along, and our moderators will come back to that at the end, and we'll do a Q&A at the end for about 10 minutes. So if you have questions, please chuck them in a chat at any point of time. And for the final slide, please, for me. So for tonight, we have 4 great speakers. So Jason, based in Queensland for the 30 by 30 campaign, is going to speak first. Then Jasmine from the 30 by 30 campaign, Hayley, who's an organising coordinator for the Queensland Conservation Council, and Sandra, a volunteer from the Queensland Conservation Council. I'll let them introduce the components that they're doing throughout the night, but I'm going to hand over to Jason, who's going to provide us a campaign overview for about 15 minutes. Thanks, Jason. Handing over to you.
Great, thanks, Simon. Can you guys hear me? Thumbs up if you can. Great. Thank you. I'm like the campaign manager with the 30 by 30 campaign. I might just start off by introducing myself and letting you know how I came to be here, and then sort of running through the campaign. So here you've got some photos of my journey to being a campaigner for 30 by 30. What you see up there are the house with the banners on it. That was taken 2 days after my 21st birthday back in 1997. And at the time, I just started volunteering with Greenpeace, and Australia was, the Kyoto Protocol was being negotiated, and Australia wasn't playing nice. And so we went and installed solar panels on the Prime Minister's roof. And that was kind of like my first sort of foray into campaigning. But then I continued volunteering with Greenpeace for the next 13 years. And during that time, I did, a lot of the fun stuff, driving boats and dropping banners off bridges, and got to sail on the Rainbow Area, which was great. But the majority of what I did was, sitting in stalls, in the local markets, stuffing envelopes, getting petitions signed, handing out flyers, all that sort of stuff that, isn't glamorous, but it's what wins campaigns. But I never really saw myself as wanting to be a professional sort of campaigner. But in 2011, my father died, and it really made me, question what I'm doing with my life and that sort of thing. So I took a pay cut and took a job at Greenpeace, looking after their volunteers, and worked there for 4 years. After that, I started working for Solar Citizens, a small advocacy group that campaigns for renewables. I was there at a very fun time. Actually, it was a pretty stressful time. The Abbott government was trying to, undo a bunch of renewable stuff. And, it was a really, really great place to be working in that. This is me dressed up as in a sunny suit. We spent an election campaign chasing politicians around, trying to raise a profile. After a couple of years there, I worked at ACF and led ACF's climate work in Queensland for several years, for about 5 or 6 years. Really proud of the work we did there. And you can see the Gladstone Regional Economic Transition. That was a campaign I'm really proud of. After the 1999 election, the narrative was that Queensland had rejected climate action, and climate action was dead. And we knew we needed to campaign differently in Queensland. And we got behind the local community in Gladstone, the local groups that were trying to get a transition plan for Gladstone. Gladstone's like, the world's fifth biggest coal port, massive coal power station in town, alumina, aluminium, cement, chemicals, it was described by a Prime Minister as the carbon capital of Australia. And after a couple of years, we managed to get, the community on side, the unions, the workers, the traditional owners, business, everyone to come together to have an economic transition plan. We did it by making friends and listening, and, really proud of that campaign. And then you got the Climate Action Now signs. I was instrumental in getting that going. I'm actually the person that came up, said that we should call it Climate Action Now signs, and I led the campaign team in ACF to get that going. So, not saying that, because I like talking about myself or to big note myself. I just wanted to, sort of say, first of all, I was a volunteer for a long time, and I know where you guys are coming from. I know that you're capable. I know that you could be doing something else right now. You're giving up your time. And I know you want to have impact. I know you're probably looking at the world and seeing what's going on and wanting to make a difference. And we respect that. We're not here to waste your time. As I said, I've been around the block a few times, and we've got a great team here, and we've got a good campaign, and we've got good actions for you to get involved in. So thank you for coming. I'll get on with talking about the campaign now. Can you have the next slide, please? So, the campaign was set up to to deliver the 30 by 30, which is part of the Global Biodiversity Framework. The Global Biodiversity Framework is like the international plan to protect biodiversity. There's 23 targets. All of them are important, but the key one is 30 by 30, which is protecting 30% of land and sea by 2030. And it's not just any 30%, it's the 30% that's got the best nature. It's untouched 30%, it's the 30% of high biodiversity value. And the fine print is a paragraph long. But and can I have next slide so I can get into that? And we need it. The nature's in crisis around the world. In Australia, there's a nature crisis. We lead the world in mammal extinctions. Our ecosystems are showing signs of collapse. We're only a developed country on the global list of deforestation hotspots. We've got a host of problems, and we really need stronger action to really protect Australia's nature. Next slide, please. So this is kind of a snapshot of where Australia is getting towards 30 by 30. The green bits are what's currently underprotected. And each of the other little chunks, like little jigsaw puzzle pieces, are different bioregions. We've got 89 bioregions in Australia. And the hotter the colour, the less protection that's there. And so Australia's doing pretty good in terms of the amount of protection we've got. We're about 24.5% with another 2% in the works. But there's a bunch of areas that have got really low levels of protection. And this is where we get to the problem where to get protection in all of these places is going to cost money. And that's just the end of the day. Yeah, jump on the next slide. That's great. And so, realizing that money was the barrier, started looking into, well, first question is, well, how much does nature actually get? What's the current budget? And the first thing I found was it's not even reported properly, and I started trying to figure it out, and I thought I must have something wrong. And I called James Trezise, the director of the Biodiversity Council, is a member of the campaign. I was like, James, I'm trying to figure out how much money nature gets, and I'm only coming up with 400 million. And James is like, yeah, that's right. And I was like, that's crazy. And James is like, I know. And I'm like, we should be working on that. And James is like, I know. And really, we realized that we needed to look bigger than just 30 by 30, that unless we change this, not even $1 billion to protect, nature on a continent, with one of the most, one of the mega diverse countries in the world, it's, we just need to change that. And so, we started looking at going, how do, not only do we want to get the 30 by 30, but we want to get the funding that will actually save nature. Next slide, please. And so, unfortunately, you've got to make an economic argument if you want to kind of get some money. I don't think it should be necessary for us to make an economic argument to save nature. It's amazing and we should protect it no matter what. But we knew we could win an economic argument. And so we got, some really robust economic analysis done to look at what nature contributes to the Australian economy. And I realise I'm probably talking a lot, so I won't go into this in detail, but the direct contribution from nature in things that you can measure, obviously we're part of nature and we can't survive without it. But if you just measure what it's contributing to the measurably in the economy, it's 138 billion a year. So of direct contribution. Next slide, please. And then when you put in regulating services, it's at $500 billion, 500 billion, which is equivalent to 20% of the GDP and more than finance and mining put together. And so, when you look at this equation, you're like, nature is only getting $500 million a year, and yet it's contributing $500 billion. Next slide, please. And when you look into what biodiversity actually needs, we looked at a bunch of the literature that's got various plans. What's apparent is we're out by an order of magnitude. It's not just we need to put it up by a fraction. It's we need to put it up by at least 10 times. Next slide, please. And then if you're not already angry about this, you look at what harmful nature subsidies get. And so the federal government last year spent 26.3 billion in financial assistance to harmful nature activities. Half of that is like fossil fuel subsidies and tax breaks and that sort of stuff, but it also covers a bunch of other harmful nature activities. And then on the other side, the tiny little blue line is how much nature actually gets. Like, this is just crazy. And so, yeah, like, yeah, just don't, it's just crazy. So, next slide, please. And so we're campaigning for 1% for nature. At the moment, like it's $762 million a year. So they'll bring it up to 7 billion a year, and every year it would go up. The 1%, is an order of magnitude higher, but it's not really a robust plan for it. But what it is a powerful way to communicate just how little nature gets funded, and the need to be funded more. And what we really need you guys to do is to go and meet your MP and say, look, I want you to commit to 1% funding for nature. Like, I'm a taxpayer, or been a taxpayer all my life. I'm a voter, and I want, like, at the moment, $1 out of every $1,000 tax you pay goes to nature, and that's crazy. And so, and that will put politicians in a situation where, like, they're constantly thinking how they explain their policies to the voters. And this makes them realize that less than 1% for nature is indefensible. It's just a really powerful way to get these politicians off the fence and get them to get behind greater funding for nature. Next slide, please. And then going along with that is we're going to try and get these I Love Nature stickers here. Going to let Jasmine talk about how we're going to do that, practically. But as part of the strategy, if an MP is hearing from you saying, hey, I want more of my money to go to protecting nature, and then they go out and see these I Heart Nature stickers everywhere, they're going to get a very powerful message that this is something the Australian public wants. We know that the vast majority of Australians, 95% support 1% for nature. It's like 92% support, like, 2% for nature, and, Australians really, really love nature. And so if these stickers are everywhere, it'll remind people not only, it'll remind them that they love nature, and this is a value that we all share, and that, that there is the support in Australia. Question 1% of federal spending, not GDP. So 1% of federal spending. So I might wrap it there and pass to Jasmine. Jasmine also works on the 30 by 30 campaign and has done a lot of work to bring this campaign together and bring tonight together. So thank you. Yeah, I hope I get to talk to you guys all again soon.
Thanks so much, Jace. Hi, everyone. So yes, as Jace said, we've recently just launched our I Love Nature stickers all around the country. It's a really fun tactic. And yeah, we want to see these stickers on cars, drink bottles, laptops, bikes, surfboards, everywhere. So, our decision makers can see this message and know that people care. So yeah, it can be a really powerful, visible moment if everyone gets involved. And really easy to get involved. So we're looking for sticker ambassadors to help us spread this message. So how it works is we have sticker packs that we're putting together, and we will send them to you for free. The packs have 6 different stickers and an instruction flyer, but basically, keep a sticker or so for yourself, put it somewhere visible, and then hand out the rest of the stickers to friends, family, colleagues, your local barista, spread them around, spread the love. It's really easy. I will put a link in the chat where you can order your sticker pack. You just put in your details, your email address, your posting address, and we will get those packs out to you, and then you can hand them out at your leisure. But also your local conservation council have stickers that they can give you as well, if you are in a handy distance to your local conservation council, hit them up. Yeah, so really simple and easy, but a really powerful way to show that you care about nature. And I will put that link to order the sticker pack in the chat, but also I'll pop my email address in there. If it's just more simple for you to send me a direct email saying you want a pack, then we can do it that way too. Thanks so much, everyone. I'll pass it on.
Hi everybody, I'm Hayley. I work for the Queensland Conservation Council in the role of organising coordinator. So I've been with QCC for about 6.5 years now, working with amazing people across the state to protect nature. So I'm just going to cover a little bit about engaging with your MP around in relation to this campaign. So as Jason said, it's really important to demonstrate to your MP that constituents care about 1% for nature and ask that MP to take action. So meeting your MP really demonstrates the support within their constituents and then demonstrates also that there's influence there in terms of votes. And it's all about sort of increasing the pressure and expectation that that MP represents the views of their constituents. And also it's really about connecting local issues to that MP. So thinking about why 1% for nature is relevant for your electorate and your area. What would be different in your area if 1% of the federal budget was going towards nature, and sort of providing that context to your local MP. Next slide, please. And it's not just about meetings. So there are a variety of different ways to engage with your MP. Ideally, meeting your MP is the priority here, but it's also important to just engage with your MP and their office on a regular basis. So you might sort of drop into their office to sort of say hi, provide some stickers, provide a report, or you might track them down at a mobile office. So I'll talk about that a bit later, but often they're sort of out in their communities at sort of cafes or shopping centres. So track down where they are and go say hi. And obviously following them on social media as well and getting in touch with them directly through their email and giving them a call. Next slide, please. And I'll sort of get into a bit more of that detail shortly. But one important way to sort of start this process is really to research your MP. So find out what they support. And one way of doing that is through this website called They Vote For You. So you can search your MP and basically have a big list about what they've supported in the past or what they haven't supported, and really gives you an idea of where they stand in terms of supporting nature. So I'm now going to hand over to Sandra. Sandra is an amazing volunteer in the south side of Brisbane, working with local community groups, pressuring a variety of MPs on all levels about all sorts of nature and climate issues. And she's just going to share a bit about her story and her experience with meeting with MPs. Sandra?
Okay, thank you, Hayley, for that lovely introduction. Yes, I live in the federal electorate of Griffith, and that is in Brisbane's inner eastern, southeastern suburbs, rather. I've been a volunteer in the climate and environment sector now ever since the lead up to the 2019 election, federal election. Now, the main organisations I volunteer for are ACF and QCC. There's a very active group of around 12 volunteers that I work with in the electorate, and we do all the usual sorts of stuff like stalls and rallies and marches and submissions, petitions, you know. But most of us actually enjoy meeting our MPs. Now, some might think we're an unusual group of people. I don't know, because most of them really will jump in there and enjoy doing it. Federally, we have had 3 different members since we actually commenced our group around about the end of 2018, 2019. That sort of lack of stability of changing each time, as it has for us, it does provide an additional challenge to our aim to forge and maintain good relationships with our MPs. So as one of our strategies to counter this, we try to meet with election candidates prior to elections, with the main parties in our electorate. Especially we would concentrate on them where it looks like, they may have a good chance of winning. There might be one or two we think, oh, it'll either be that one or that one. So we particularly concentrate on those. If we meet with them before the election, which we usually do, we've done that quite successfully, and then they're subsequently elected, we can then quickly build on that relationship with an email of congratulations and express our desire to meet with them again a little bit further down the track once they've settled into their new role. When a need arises to arrange an MP meeting, such as there's an urgent issue you want to discuss or a campaign like this one, this will be the next issue for the meeting with the federal MP, I'm sure. Our groups meet first to work out the areas that they'll each cover and their individual roles in the meeting. Now, when you enter an MP meeting well prepared and with a sound understanding of the topic, it's really not scary, especially when you've developed a rapport with the MP. And the main thing to remember really is you don't need to be an expert. Have a good grasp of the issues, but you're not presenting yourself as an expert. It's important that MPs hear from their constituents, as Hayley said previously, because when multiple constituents contact an MP about the same issue, it signals a significant growing concern within the electorate that warrants some action. This is where individual participation in major campaigns can be very important. If MPs don't hear from their constituents on an issue, they may wrongfully assume that none of their constituents care about it. That's very rarely the case, I would say. Some people may be concerned, but they expect, oh, the MP already knows about it, or oh, someone else will already have spoken to them about it. So I think you get that sort of attitude sometimes. It's good to put that aside, and you want as many people going in to let the MP know about this issue as possible. Has the greatest impact. I consider face-to-face meetings to be a very effective way to engage with an MP. Of course, we do all the phone calls, we do emails. Sometimes we do turn up at mobile offices and stop in for, to deliver something, whatever the case may be. But it's particularly important that the MP hears the story of how a particular issue has affected their constituent or how that person has been involved with a campaign. When the issue is a local one, it can be even more powerful. For example, our federal MP had been hearing about the koalas that live in a bushland area within our electorate being run over by cars whilst crossing a busy road. She responded when she visited the site, she put it on social media, she spoke up about it in Parliament. So getting off to a quick start with our current federal MP, which we've done with all of them, I would say, but we're on the current one now, it was also an advantage. Our group was known to her, quite early in her taking over, and our group was allowed 2 representatives at a meeting with Josh Wilson, who's the Assistant Minister for Climate Change and Energy. Now, that is the photo on the left, and Josh Wilson is the guy in the suit standing right in the middle. She's even favourably mentioned our group in Parliament. Also around 2020, a state MP, we've got 3 of those within the Griffith electorates, 3 state electorates. they told one of our group members who lives in his electorate that he didn't think his constituents were interested in climate or the environment until members of our group began to contact his office and meet with him to discuss their issues and personal stories and how those related to the current campaigns. After that, it was quite soon after initially, he held a climate forum and for people within his electorate, and more recently, he's held an energy forum for his electorate. So the group's relationship with him over the years has truly evolved and still going strong today, I'm pleased to say. He's been one of the stable MPs that we deal with. When requesting a meeting, we always try to find out how much time will be allocated. That can vary. Sometimes it's only half an hour, sometimes it's 3/4 of an hour. If you're really lucky, maybe an hour. But when planning, we need to keep in mind that there are always introductions, and then there's that little bit of small talk. Always happens at small talk and little friendly catch-ups and all that sort of thing, which is great at the beginning. And then you've got the photo at the end. So as a result, that time allocation goes very quickly. So we like to be very prepared. We develop our agenda. We put our names and estimated times against each item, and we also include our asks on the agenda. We always send the agenda to the MP's office a reasonable time prior to the meeting taking place. And this allows the MP the opportunity to review the issues, maybe to consult advisors beforehand. And this is making them more informed during the meeting, and it allows for a more targeted and productive discussion. We always post the photo on our social media as shortly after the meeting as we can. And we've had a few instances too where an MP's posted on their own social media. They take photos too, and they comment on their meeting with us. They say, you know, who we were and what group we were, and some of the issues. They talk about some of the issues that we covered. And the posts have always been very positive, I'm pleased to say. Well, finally, it's a crucial task of following up. That is very important after the meeting. And one of the most important things, of course, is that we need to follow up on our asks. We don't want them to sort of just slip away and be forgotten about. Sometimes it takes weeks. But to my knowledge, we've always received responses. They may not be always the responses exactly that we really like to receive, but we get the responses, and so that's good. It is a positive. So just thank everyone. Thank you for your time, and I'm going to hand back to Hayley now, and I'm sure she'll cover a lot more of those issues.
Thanks so much, Sandra. It's really great to hear that personal experience of meeting with your MP. So I'm just going to quickly cover the steps around meeting with your MP. Sandra covered most of this, so I won't go into sort of too much detail. But obviously the first step of meeting with your MP is asking for a meeting. And the best way to do that is in writing over email. And a couple of points is really making sure that meeting request is really clear, making sure that you're saying in your email, this is a meeting request and why you want to meet. And of course, even in that email, relating that issue that you want to talk about to your electorate. And also being clear as to like who wants to join that meeting. So how many people are in your group, what suburb you live in, things like that. Next. Thank you. So the next is obviously important to prepare for your meeting. So put together an agenda, speaking notes, identify roles, who's saying what, who's taking notes, things like that. And then collect it. Like if you are meeting as a group, be really, really clear on what your key message is and what your key ask is in that meeting. And then of course, follow them up. So they don't always get back to you over email. straight away. So make sure that you give them a call and say, I sent an email, I want to meet with you. Can you get back to me, please? And then at the meeting, obviously following that agenda, acknowledging any work that that MP has done in terms of support for nature already. So sort of, I guess, give them a bit of a compliment to make them feel good, and bring that sort of local context to that issue. So think about like, what would 1% for nature in your community look like? Why is it important to your community? And have a chat about like, discuss their opinions, give them time to respond. So making sure that it's sort of a two-way chat, and be really clear there again on what you want that MP to do. And then take a photo, because it never happened if there isn't a photo. And then obviously follow up. So it's important to send that follow-up information to them to say like, thanks for meeting. We discussed this. You said you support XYZ. You support 1% for nature, more specifically. Remind them of that. And then, any photos you took, really important to share on social media. So if you're part of a community group, share on social media to sort of highlight whether or not your local MP supports it or not, and share those photos with us as well, so we can share that nationally. So just a couple of other ideas for meeting with your MP as well. So they're often, as I said before, and as Sandra said, they're often at these sort of local mobile offices. So sign up to your MP's newsletter, find them on social media, and track them and keep track of where they are, so that when they have events like this, you can go and say hello to them and say, hi, I've requested a meeting. Can we meet with you? It's sort of, I guess, an opportunity. Like ideally, meeting in their office is the best case scenario for this, but this is sort of another way to bring up the issue with them. And still worth doing a bit of prep for that as well. So obviously, you're not going to have as long as a meeting. You may only have 5 minutes, but worth sort of having really being clear in your head around like, what are you asking? What are your key talking points? Things like that. And also it's an opportunity, like if you haven't had a meeting with them yet, it is an opportunity to sort of bring up those brief topics and then suggest a meeting in their office. Next slide, please. So this is, Sandra again, meeting with the local MP. So I just saw the Griffith MP, Renee Coffey, she put this up on social media. So this is like a key example of a mobile office, and a perfect opportunity, like having a meeting and a walk in a local conservation area, perfect opportunity to bring up 1% for nature. So keep an eye on opportunities like that, to go and meet with your MP and sort of wave the flag for 1% for nature. And here's Sandra meeting with Renee, providing a climate report at a sort of pop-up office type arrangement. Next slide, please. And then another example is just dropping into their office. So as I said, ideally prioritize a meeting, but sometimes this might be an alternative to that, or it might also be a way to follow up on a meeting request. So you might sort of try and be a bit creative on this. Think about what you can hand over. So whether it's the report, if you haven't been able to get a meeting, and work out the best time, avoid sitting weeks so that they're more likely to be in their office. And they're again thinking about roles. So who's saying what, who's taking photos, who's carrying props, things like that. And also always make sure that if you are popping into their office, make sure that the office staff, if you haven't been able to talk to their MP, is recording your attendance. So making sure that they're recording your details, where you live, what issues you've come in to talk about, so that that's sort of an official record for the MP, so that they know that you've been into the office, you care about 1% for nature, they need to as well. Next slide. And like it is a long game, so it is worth thinking about this as an opportunity to build a relationship with your local MP. Obviously, this is going to be easier than for some more than others. But in terms of doing that, it's important to like be respectful and friendly within your meetings, and sort of think about it as a way of like a longer term relationship. So be able to continue conversations. And then like a few additional tips that Sandra also mentioned for those meetings is that always get a photo, share on social media, highlight what the MP said, always be clear on what you want and what you want the party to do, and always think about like if you pop into their office and only manage to talk to a staff member, remember that's just as much as an opportunity to highlight the issue and be respectful and valuable in terms of getting that message across as well. And thank you. So basically the asks for you should be fairly clear on this now. We want a fair go for nature. We want 1% of the federal budget to go towards nature, and we want the MPs to publicly support this through bringing it up in the party room, in Parliament, talking to the Treasurer, talking to the Environment Minister, being a champion for 1% for nature within the party and within Parliament. So when you walk into that office and meet with your MP, remember the one thing that you need to do before you leave that office is get a photo with that MP with a sign that says 1% for nature. And we're going to provide you with a couple of options here, but 1% for nature is the priority in terms of what the photo is. You want the photo of the MP with a sign that says 1% for nature. And photos, social media. And so in terms of next steps, I'll hand over to Simon in a minute to go through this as well and to sort of run through a few questions. But your state Conservation Council will be in touch and connect you up with other people in your electorate, and we'll also be providing resources to you. So we've got an MP meeting request template, as well as a Meet Your MP guide. We've got briefing notes for MPs. Those things are online as well, which someone might be sharing in the chat. We'll also provide you with a nature economics report and 3 sign options for those photos. And then obviously the next step for you is to meet up with people in your electorate and start making a plan. Cool. I think that's it for me. So I might hand over to Simon.
Great. Thank you to Jason, Jasmine, Sandra, and Hayley for all of that. That was a really great summary of the campaign and of the importance of this work. I think we've got about 10 minutes for some questions. We've had some questions in the chat, so just going to throw some questions that have come through. Unfortunately, sorry, we don't have heaps of time for questions today, but as Hayley has mentioned, your local Conservation Council will be getting in touch with you for next steps on this campaign. So there'll be more opportunities to ask questions when that happens. So I think I've got 4 questions here. The first one is a really basic one, and I'm not sure actually who to ask, maybe Jasmine. Will we be able to make the webinar slide deck sent out to people who have participated and who didn't quite make it?
Thanks, Simon. I'll jump in. Yes, we will send the recording of this webinar to you all in the next couple of days, and that has the slide deck in it.
Great. So the next one is, maybe this is for Jason, I'm not quite sure, but maybe it goes to Hayley. Can anyone give us a sense of what the response by MPs has been to the campaign so far? Do we feel like MPs are interested in this idea of boosting funding for nature?
I'll give that a go. It's a mixed bag, and I think it depends on the MP. We've shopped this idea around, and it's been from incredulous that we want that much to some MPs being really keen to support the campaign, and there are a few that are kind of on the crossbench that have sort of said, well, once you've got the campaign rolling, we're happy to really champion it. I think for Labor, the government, who I guess at the end of the day, they're the ones that get to make the decision at the moment. Their priority at the moment really is budget repair, and what I hear from them is, look, there's a cost of living crisis, interest rates, and I haven't had a meeting since fuel prices have gone off, but I'm sure that'll be part of the mix. And that's partly why we needed that economics piece, because they're sort of saying, well, we gotta fix the economy, and but also, the 1% frame really works. They understand that we're not asking for a lot, well, we're asking for a lot, but 1% to protect nature, which does so much, is a really reasonable thing. And I think you'll find politicians will find it very hard to say no to, to justify that they're not going to spend 1% for nature when it gives us so much. It's our way of life. We've got a responsibility to pass it on. They understand that. But really, what we need to create the political space for them to do stuff. So, so it's a mixed bag. It's going to take a while to get there, but us going in and having these conversations and making the ask is a critical part of getting there.
Next question, I'm going to put two questions together about the Conservation Council. So the first is, how will the Conservation Councils get in touch? And then another follow-up is, what do I do if there's no Conservation Council in near me? I'm happy to answer the second part, but I'll hand over maybe to Hayley or Jasmine for both of those.
Sure, I can jump in. So we have obviously you RSVP'd for this webinar, so we have your contact details in a variety of ways. So some of you may have RSVP'd through Queensland Conservation Council, others of you may have RSVP'd through 30 by 30. So we'll just sort of work out who lives where, providing you provided your postcode when you signed up. So we'll have got your details, so we'll email you a bunch of information. Probably in that email, provide you with a contact as well, so that if they don't get in touch with you, you can get in touch with them. And I think in most cases there is a conservation council in each state who's working on this campaign. But if there isn't, we will still support you. So someone from another state will probably be in touch, or Jasmine will be in touch, or some combination.
I'll just jump in quickly to say, for those in New South Wales and Victoria, I'll be in touch with you.
Just to note that there is a Conservation Council near you. The Conservation Councils cover every state and territory. And so while maybe your central office might be based in a capital city and that's not near you, they do, wherever you are, there is a Conservation Council that covers your area. And so if you're a regional rural area, someone will be in touch, because it's really important to be meeting MPs, not just in the cities, but also in all parts of the country. So we'll be providing support to people all across the country. I've got a question about meetings, and I think this is an interesting one, and maybe I'll hand it again to you, Hayley, or even to Sandra. The question is it better to have lots of people go to one meeting, or to have multiple individual meetings?
So I guess for this case, probably the best case scenario is that you meet in a group. That would sort of be the best way to sort of provide that support. But like, as I said, with those sort of office drop-ins, or like, I guess the first step would be to try to get a meeting as a whole group. to sort of help demonstrate, like, there's 10 of us, there's 5 of us, there's 2 of us, and we want to meet with you to discuss this issue. But like, yeah, I guess see how things go in terms of that. And it might be a situation where you might be find it easier to break it up into a couple of groups. Obviously, some federal electorates are quite large, so some of you might want to represent a very local issue and have a very local example of where 1% for nature would be would help. That you might sort of want to have a separate meeting for that.
I have another question about meetings, and this one, I think someone mentioned living specifically in Barnaby Joyce's electorate. So the question is really, what is it valuable to still go to organise meetings for politicians or political parties that have a poor track record in the environment and possibly strongly you might expect it to be disinclined to support this campaign? Again, maybe hand to you, Hayley.
Sure. Yeah, like no matter where you are, it's always important to demonstrate that community cares about this. Obviously, meeting with Barnaby Joyce might be quite difficult to get a meeting with Barnaby Joyce, but you might sort of just want to like send some emails, get some people together to sort of send emails together. But you also might want to think about other ways in your community that you can build and share support. So things like distributing stickers, or think about some local issues in the area that you can get people together, get people behind and work together on that. But yeah, obviously meeting with some federal MPs are quite difficult. And obviously this campaign is focused on the current government, so the current Labor government. But yeah, no matter what colour your MP is, it's important to demonstrate that demonstrate your support for protecting nature and 1% for nature.
Could I jump in and add to that? Just that, caring for nature is a pretty universal, value, and like it doesn't necessarily mean, well, I think Barnaby is a tough one. But I think you don't want to make assumptions about, what party would stand for it. And I know the coalition, there's people in there that think that they need to have better environmental credentials to get re-elected. And I think, we want to be trying to get them on side. Like, we want to try and get all parties supporting protecting nature. And so it might be a tough meeting. It might be like a small chance that you land it. But I think reaching out to those parties that aren't traditionally strong in nature is a really important and valuable thing to do. So, don't want to send you to have a really negative time. I do remember when we sent some volunteers at Solar Citizens to meet with George Christensen, and that didn't go down too well. But it's still, I think, important to be trying to talk to all politicians.
Great, thank you for that, Jason. I think we're running short on time, so I think we'll use that opportunity to wrap up there. And as I said, someone will be getting in touch with you soon if you've joined this webinar. So if you have further questions, there's always an opportunity to reach out to whoever gets in touch with you to have that conversation and to further ask your questions. So just want to wrap up with a few immediate next steps. So first of all, thank you so much for coming. As we said, each conservation council, so it's so just to clarify, this alliance includes all of the state and territory conservation councils except for New South Wales and Victoria at this point in time. So if you're in a state or territory that isn't New South Wales or Victoria, someone from the Conservation Council will get in touch with you soon. And if you're from New South Wales or Victoria, someone from the National 30 by 30 team will get in touch with you soon to coordinate with you, to talk to you about whether you want to start organising these MP meetings and start doing this work. So you should be expecting to hear someone via email or phone with everything you need to prepare for those meetings. and to develop, to take these next steps that we've been talking about. So keep an eye out on your email in the coming few days, and remember to check your junk file because often these things go to junk. There's also a last and quick and easy action that you can take now. So to finish up, we're going to put a link in the chat and put up a QR code on the screen for anyone who hasn't signed the petition going to Minister for Environment Murray Watt and Treasurer Jim Chalmers, which is to demand a fair go for nature. That's 1% of federal budget to go into nature. So if you haven't signed that petition, please take the moment. It's quick and easy. Just sign that petition, and this is will be a quick and easy way to get involved as well. We think this is a really great campaign. It's a really important issue. We're really pleased that you've all joined us for this important issue, and we think we have an opportunity here to make a really big difference for nature. So thank you all for coming. We hope that you all get involved and are inspired to get involved, and we'll see you all on our social media feeds, meeting with MPs, putting out stickers, getting involved in the campaign. We hope to see you all again soon.